Hi, Sangeeta. Welcome to Autism Knows No Borders. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you so much, Rachel, for inviting me. I'm so glad that, I'm here today.
Could you please briefly introduce yourself?
I'm Sangeeta Jain, mother of 21-year-old boy, young, handsome boy, I would say, autism. And also as working as professional, we have this institute called SOREM, where we had, before lockdown, 172 students, 68 students with autism. And since I said like 172 students, the services vary from early intervention to provide vocational skill training. And this journey has been very beautiful for me because of my inspiration. That's my son. So,
And you're a special guest, not only because you're a Global Autism partner, but also because your daughter Shreya was one of our first guests on this podcast.
yeah, she's also interned with Global Autism Project.
hmm So I encourage our listeners to check out episode 6 with Shreya if they haven't already.
Yeah, that was so nice. Yeah.
And you're joining us today from Chandigarh, India.
Yeah, Chandigarh, India. That's a very beautiful. Chandigarh is a very beautiful city, small city, and beautifully architect. It's a. I would say, like, if you go to India, this is the most beautiful city. Not because I live here, but it's actually the one of the most beautiful cities. And this is in the northern part of India, pretty near to the
Mhm.
capital, something like 5 hours drive from Delhi.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's start with how autism is viewed in India. We have several listener questions that I'll be inserting throughout this interview. And this one is actually from Tay Ruiz. They want to know what's the acceptance like in India with people with autism?
So with the awareness, I would start with like the question you asked me, awareness, it varies. So we've come a long way in the metropolitan cities and the smaller cities also, the awareness is there. But for the acceptance, then again it varies. I mean, parents still want to hide, and in the rural areas and the villages, because India is a very big country, so we have you know we have small cities also, and but somewhere in the rural villages still, people still think that this is something like, I don't know how to say it, but something like black magic or something like that. But in the cities, the acceptance is there, the awareness is there, what is autism spectrum disorder, and parents, educated parents especially, really want to help their child. So it really varies, the acceptance and the awareness. It has started coming in homes especially and in the community, but it has a long way to go. It has a long way to go yet.
This is another listener question. What is the diagnostic criteria of autism in India?
So if I talk about the diagnosis, I mean, not even, I would say, like a decade ago, children were usually diagnosed as PDD, NOS if they were high functioning, or intellectual disabled. So my son, who's 21 years old, has a diagnosis or disability certificate in the name of multiple disability. And now, of course, the medical professionals are aware of, but we're still using very old assessment checklists like cars, something, or not too sure of what are they using right now currently. But in India, we do not have any of our own checklist formed. We are forming. We are we're all getting onto it, like what ecologically or culturally is more valid to us. But somehow we are all taking the checklist assessment tools from the Western countries. So that is how, as I said, like, the diagnosis also varies, because if you are into the rural areas, probably the diagnosis will come as the intellectual disability and not as autism spectrum disorder.
Mm,
But
okay.
medical professionals like doctors, pediatricians, psychologists are very well aware. If they reach out to them, they are able to diagnose them with the autism spectrum disorder. It is coming. As I said, like, we're not that bad as we were about 10 years back, but it has started, and it has to, continue to be, to say like, oh, we're good with the diagnosis, we have everything, and it's like there are no concerns, and in it we do have concerns.
Mhm. Was there something that happened 10 years ago to kind of propel this awareness?
I think parents were the key factors, like where we realize that our children have autism spectrum, is, they have this diagnosis. So why shouldn't we get the diagnosis of such? And also the certain acts came, like National Trust Act, and then the revised Person with Disability Act came, where the clear, there was a mention, they mentioned about autism spectrum disorders also. So I think the government became aware of, and then once then everything is, we more aware of, the diagnosis is also comes in the medical hospitals and everywhere. People need to work
Mhm.
for that. But yeah, the start, it came from was, I what I believe is in from the parents, because they wanted the diagnosis as the autism spectrum disorder.
Yeah. This kind of ties into the next listener question from Shruti. So they're asking if the parent community in India can influence the government to start providing funding for essential families because, there's often late intervention because of late diagnosis. And so they want to know if there can be some kind of education to consider early intervention for kids who have a diagnosis of autism.
So, in the medical hospital, government medical hospitals, there is a provision of early intervention, play therapies, and all those things. But as of like, the question is like, parent community can influence. There are, under National Trust Act, there is a probability that you can apply for the funding, grant, and all. But to get any kind of grants from the government is also, it requires a lot of, paperwork, and it's a continuous process, and a very very a big effort, I would say, because if you're passionate and you want to work towards it, and and it's not that easy that you just apply the paperwork and you get it. You have to follow up, you have to continuously do all that, and I do not know how much time will it take. So if we're talking about the early intervention, it has to start as early as possible, and most of the parents would, give up halfway. And certain NGOs are also applying for this kind of fund, but again, I think the government part, when we talk about, it's not that easy to get anything.
Hmm.
It takes a lot of effort, and it's better to do, whatever resources you have, to start with something on your own, and then in that process, if you can get some kind of grants, that's like great. But do not do not keep waiting for the grants to come, because you really do not know when it comes, and how much it comes, and how much is sanctioned, and what would you get, whether it gets sanctioned. There's like too many questions attached to it.
So are families paying out of pocket?
Everyone is paying from packet, but we do have some government schools. But again, I mean, I'm not too sure, but they're not the practices that we want to, avail for our children, are not standardized, or are not the benchmark that we would like to send. So every parent, whosoever has like little money, would like to send them to some therapist, or pay from their pockets and get the services, rather than sending to the government medical hospitals or therapists.
Hmm. So, what services are available for families from the point of diagnosis until adulthood?
So for the diagnosis, we need to actually go reach out to the government medical hospitals for us to get a certified, diagnosis. The standalone practitioners like psychologists and all, even if they write, you don't get the disability certificate. So it's not that and such the diagnosis, I think many parents, when the kid is too small, maybe they feel that, okay, maybe my child will come out of this autism spectrum disorder, so I don't want to get my child labeled, or for whatever reasons they don't even get it diagnosed at very young age from the government medical hospitals. So that's part of the diagnosis. Like if you want a diagnosis by and a certification, then you need to go to a government medical hospital. Otherwise, the diagnoses are available with the pediatricians, and on the paper they would, their prescription, they would say that the child falls under autism spectrum disorder. And then of course, like I as I said, like the very big government medical hospitals will have psychologists, will have neurologists, will have psychiatrists, and may have some kind of, some people like play therapist or person, but not exactly, I would say, like they would have some bcbas or um, special educator who would really, really understand the needs of a child with autism spectrum disorder. With intellectual disability, it's been going on since long, so they are able to take cater to their needs. But with autism spectrum disorders, I'm not too confident about it. Or probably in different parts of India, there may be available, but in smaller cities, I don't see that happening. and
Mm.
um, and also probably in the villages also it's not there. So yes, of course, when I say there are institutes, and mostly what I see is there are standalone institutions, like when one person opens a therapy center and is providing services. So the services, the quality of the services would really vary, because it is not standardized by the government, like, okay, this is what you all need. We all have to get registered through Rehabilitation Council of India. But again, the the, like in US, how it is standardized, the benchmarking, it's not there in India. So anyone, whosoever is providing the services, is there, and like, you have to, by the word of mouth, or someone like, oh, that my son really got well and this person is fine and has more passion. So it really varies. There's nothing like, I would say, standardized services overall in India, because it's, as I shared earlier, it's a very big country with 22 official languages. It varies. So if you go to the different part of India, there would be different people working, and their way would be different. So somewhere it would vary, and you really don't know what is happening in the other part of India. For us, well, like for SOREM, I think we had a chance to understand what is the global benchmark through Global Autism, and this was like the best practices found in the Western countries. So we were able to definitely, follow those practices. But I'm and there would be certain institutes, but majorly in metropolitan cities. But if I talk about the smaller cities, I mean, I'm not too sure of that, the services that they're providing.
Mhm. What kinds of services did your son Suvrat receive?
So my son, actually, when he got diagnosed at the age of 1 year 8 months, pretty early for that time. And
Mhm.
that's again a kind of a big story of his diagnosis and everything. So for the services, there was nothing in Chandigarh at that time, and we had to go to Delhi for that, which is which is capital of India. So I was trying to reach out, and that was the era of no internet, no computers, no this Google and smartphones. So you couldn't actually, even know about what autism is. So I had like a big deal in diagnosis of my own son, and since he was too young, nobody was diagnosing him either. Like, it's just too young, you just need to keep watch and all that stuff.
What was that like for you?
Yeah, it was very tough because Rachel from my family also, I mean, because he was very small and he regressed. So I could see him regressing, losing his, speech, staying aloof, not talking to anyone, not playing with his cousins. So that was the time I thought like something is wrong with my child. And when I started noticing and discussing with my family members, it was majorly, telling me like, oh, you are that worrying types and overthinker. He's just got, he's overcoming his sickness. And because he got actually high fever, and which was followed by the regression. So after that, when he was like recovering, I could see a major shift in him. Like he was not speaking, was not playing, was all day in his room, you know just spinning around. And I didn't know about all at that time anything about autism. So for me it was more about like, why is he doing this? And my family members, everyone, my in-laws, they said like, oh, he's just recovering, you just worrying types and all that. But somewhere inside I never felt like that was okay, something is wrong with my child. So I insisted, like, let's take him to, someone. And my pediatrician said, like, oh, no, 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 nothing is wrong with him. But then again, I wanted to do something. So actually, there was a time like I was told that um, my in-laws told my husband that your wife needs help. She needs to go to the psychologist, and
Wow.
because she's thinking so much, like there's some problem with the child. Like, just how can anyone think about 1 year, 6, 7 month old baby who has like a problem? What's the problem? Like, he's not talking. That's like okay. He's not playing with others. It's okay. So,
But
but
you also Shreya is older, so you could compare, right? Like you had some kind of reference.
yeah, I had a reference. Shreya was she's 5 years, almost 5 years elder to Suvrat. So, and somewhere I also feel that mother has this intuition that something is wrong with my child. So I think that probably brought me to the, insisting that we need to do something about it. Finally, my husband agreed, and we did go to a psychologist. The psychologist again said like, oh, keep a watch on his milestones, and we really don't know right now, we can't say anything. And but I actually met my friend, so she unofficially told me she was interning there with the psychologist. So she was interning, and she said like, you know it could be autism spectrum disorder. So autism, like, it was a pretty new term. I never heard about it. And as I shared earlier, it was an era of no Google and internet and all those things. So I went to library, was searching for something like, I can read about it. And I think I got hold of some two books where like small articles about autism written, and then it said something, oh, they won't hug you, they won't do this, they won't do that. And I said, no, 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 no. My child is like, okay. My child doesn't have autism, but again, I mean, like, it felt like something is wrong with my child. And 2, 3 months again, I kept insisting that we need to do something. And that's where we went to Delhi.
Mm,
And I went
mhm.
to Delhi. We went to some 2, 3 big hospitals, very big hospitals, and where I said like, and then they were diagnosing. And I think the psychologist in one of the biggest hospitals of India, she was wearing a very big bindi. So Suvrat was able to, give a very good eye contact to her, and did all those small puzzles and something whatever she gave him. And then she says, oh, no, 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 he's just fine, he has good eye contact, and he's done this puzzles for me and is okay.
So just to clarify, the bindi is can you describe that? So
Yeah, the one that I'm wearing in the forehead, it's basically, Hindu Indian women wear this red big dot on their forehead, which is usually worn by the married women.
okay.
Yeah.
So because of that, you're saying Suvrit was looking
Yeah,
at that, and so it appeared that he had good eye contact.
that's what I felt. I mean, like, what I observed was like he was constantly looking at her, and like, because the bindi is usually put into between the brows of your eyebrows of your forehead. So he was looking at it and he was giving eye contact, and he did follow some small, mm, uh, the puzzles, like form board puzzles, like he did something, and then he said, oh, he has a very good eye contact and he doesn't have autism. So we went from there, and somewhere in my heart I was so happy, racial, like, oh, my son doesn't have autism. But then what was it? And then again, like, just to, we went to one more doctor, and there he said, like, oh, he has autism. And
Mm.
then again, it was like such a big conflict. This big doctor say he doesn't have autism. This doctor says he has autism. But then he did say, like, he has autism. So then I asked him, like, what do I do if he has autism? What do I do? Then he said, like, oh, there's something megavitamin therapy, there's some kind of diet, because he was a psychiatrist. And then he said, most importantly, you need to do a training. And he guided me to one of the mothers, Mary Barua, who runs now National Center for Autism in Delhi. He said, you go to her. She's taken some training from US and she's back and she's opened a center over here. You go there. And I went, and when I met, I spoke to her. I saw children over there. I knew my son has autism. So
Mm.
I said, like, and then she said, like, please focus on the training. And I said, okay, if I, that was the time, like, as a mother, I said, like, if my child doesn't have autism, now my head says he has autism, but my heart was somewhere, trying to deny that. Like,
Yeah.
if my child doesn't have autism, and if I do this training and I, work with him like this in this particular manner, will he get into autism spectrum disorder if he doesn't have? She says, no, no, it's nothing like that. If he doesn't have, he'll just be like a normal baby, don't worry about that. So
Mhm.
I decided to, take my first training there, and it was not easy because, as I shared, my daughter, who was almost 6.5 years old, I had to leave her back in Chandigarh and stay in Delhi for my
Yeah.
training. And with small baby, commuting, coming,
Yeah.
staying there was not at all easy. So I stayed there for about 4 to 5 months, and then I came back. So that was my first, I would say, the therapy Suvrat got, and that was my first training. But then when I came back, there was again nothing available in Chandigarh. So, but then, yeah, now, yes, of course, like, I started my journey very late, but as a parent, I feel that I missed out on certain part. Although I did take my training, but what you need for a comprehensive training, you need support system for yourself, for your child. That was not available for my son at that time when he was young.
Yeah. So I want to go back to something you said, Sangeeta, about having that conflicting emotion of denial.
Hmm.
It's a very common step in the process of grieving. And we've talked about grieving the loss of the child that you could have had
Yeah,
with autism parents.
yeah.
So, could you talk to us about your process of accepting Suvrat's autism?
So, Rachel, I think I'm one that, with the diagnosis, it was not a long period of denial or of not accepting my child. It was more of what I can do at this point. So, I mean, I did not even hide from people. I don't know why, but it came to me like I need to do something, and my love for him was more than his diagnosis. So when I went there, I think my first 3 4 months while I was there in Delhi, when I met parents and I saw them, I thought it's just okay. It's just okay to accept and to work with the child. Um, yeah, I had my own, grief, like, whenever I saw somebody smiling or laughing or doing something, I always, thought, like, how can this person laugh so much? Isn't she feeling too, overweight by the diagnosis? But then gradually I realized, like, he is child first, he is your child first, and what you're going to, how you're going to behave with your child is actually the others are going to take it that way. So the acceptance has to come from the parent first. So that, the I do, when I see other parents, it could vary from few months to few years. For me it was pretty quick, because maybe I went to the right person where I got the right guidance, and I was probably a person who believes more in this kind of strategy, and says like, I am going to do something and I want to, do help him out whatever way I can.
Hmm.
So that was not very easy, because you were living in a joint conservative family, and you don't want to totally, when you're trying and stepping out of it. So it was like, when you are thinking like that, I think it really helped me, because it was more a focus what to do rather than to grieve. I always said to myself, there's no time to sit and cry and grieve about it. Pull up your socks and get going. That's
Hmm.
what I was able to carry forward myself.
How did your husband handle the diagnosis and all of the treatments over the years?
So he is, he was a very big, he, in terms of emotional support, and the, when I said that I want to go for my training, want to live in Delhi for 3 4 months, he really supported me.
Hmm.
And by that time, when everything was happening, my extended family also started supporting me, that she's there for her son. And I think I got support from everyone. Initial 5 6 months were difficult, but then when I took the step, I got the support also from everyone.
Hmm.
So he was also like, okay, that this is what it is and we need to accept. And the physical part, training and everything, dealing with him was more with me. Whereas other way, like supporting financially, emotional support, encouraging me to do everything, he was there throughout.
Yeah. That's wonderful that you guys were able to work as a team
Yeah,
to do what's best for your son.
yeah.
How did you balance the relationship between Shreya and Suvrit?
So Um, like, I had to leave Shreya for 4 or 5 months back to Chandigarh, and of course, like as I shared, there's nothing in Chandigarh. After that, also I kept, going to Delhi for the follow-up programs to do with Suvrat. So Shreya she definitely grew up little faster than the other children, I would say. But I also realized that Shreya was a miracle child. Where you treat average children like, okay, she was a wonder child to me, because whatever I said, she understood. Whatever we were able to understand each other. So I think more, I was able to understand her more, and there was no something like a expectations like, oh, you need to excel in your studies, or you need to do this in your this, and like, I understood that like whatever she's doing is like amazing to me. And even if somebody, told me, like, if I still remember, I went to her parent teacher meeting, and then this class teacher told me, oh, she talks a lot and she does this and she's like such a naughty child, and so on. I said like, oh really? And then she says, Mrs. Jane, I'm not talking in a positive way. And then I said, yeah, but then I don't know how to, even stop not being happy about it, because where your one child doesn't play, is not naughty, doesn't speak, the other child is, the teacher is saying is she speaks a lot. And then,
Mhm.
for me it was like, yeah, yeah, I understand, but it was like something, Suvrat taught us the acceptance, I think, in our life. So it was just not the acceptance of autism, it was also acceptance of, like, my daughter is good. You can't, I don't have any complaints. The one thing, like, as a, a neurotypical child, where you would want your child to go out with the peers, have blast, and say, like, oh, stop playing, come inside, it's time to do all that. And with the special child, with especially with autism spectrum disorder, your child doesn't go out to play, he doesn't have friends. And when this child is doing this, appreciate, acknowledge it. So where is the problem? I mean,
Mhm.
like, you balance it. It's up to you as a mother to balance your life, like you're getting from a child. So yeah, as I said, like, she definitely grew faster. She was like a second mother to Suvrat. And while I was in Delhi, she also, whenever she had holidays, she would come and stay with me. I would take her to center. We would use her like a buddy to teach social skills to children. So she also enjoyed a lot of attention. So she was a part of it, a part of whatever training that we took from a day one. And when I introduced token economy with my son at home, so the token economy was applied to my daughter also, for her homework, for her reading, for her doing all, whatever at home I was expecting. So I think we did try to strike a balance, although
Mhm.
I won't deny that my time went more with Suvrat. But
Mhm.
I did try on my level to somewhere balance. I mean, I can't say that I justified it, but there was still, a back of my mind, it was always there that I'm blessed that I have two children, and I need to really, really, appreciate and treasure this.
Mhm. Yeah. And now Shreya is, doing her own advocacy work inspired by her brother also. So
Yes.
I imagine it's a very proud moment for you as a mother.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like, she chose this after doing her chemical engineering and everything. So, I mean, what I feel like as a family, how this has come into all of us. Suvrat has led everyone into this field, I
Yeah.
would say. Yeah.
So tell us about Suvrit. What is he like? What are some of his interests? How is he now?
So Suvrat, I would say, like, he has moderate autism. He's not very, I would say, like, capable in terms of his meeting his personal needs. He needs supervision, and but he has his skills also. Like, he is very good with his vocational skills. And what I understood was, like, when he was about 14 or 15, I realized that, I he can't go too much into academics or other things. So we need to change the course of our life and think about it, what he can do more. So in the 15, I again went to Delhi and stayed there for about 4 months, took vocational training, where he learned work behavior, the schedule systems, following everything. And I also took training for the work skills, like operating the weaving systems, embroidery. So Suvrat has a lot of obsession with strings. So what came to my mind was, like, okay, he loves strings, how about choosing all his vocations with which involves strings. So he has the embroidery that he does is with the strings. The weaving loom has strings, and the other things also which is doing, you know the decorative parts that is doing with the beads and all, which we call bandhan vars, string beads. So that's also with the strings. So he enjoys, I think, he plays with the strings, he works on it. And also, he we are teaching him the his life skills, which are very important. His taking care of his room, dusting and doing all that thing, washing utensils, mopping floor, cutting vegetables, helping in kitchen. So his curriculum is more revolving around these part. But he can read and write also. He can type on computer also. He can say certain things. He can write about it and tell us. But then again, he, as I say, all those things, he needs supervision. He 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 wants someone to be by his side, and we're trying and working on fading away that supervision part also. But he's pretty capable, I would say. But as I always feel that you need to keep short term goals as well as long term goals with him.
Mhm.
So his smile is very beautiful. He has his meltdowns, he has his anxieties, he, because he's non-verbal. So, to say it all, for his attention, for sometimes for his, when he's wanting to escape and he doesn't want to do is he gets into sometimes into self-injurious behaviors, which is very difficult as a mother and as family to deal with it. So, but anyways, I always say that when he is good, when he smiles, I think we forget everything. So, and it's such a fun to be with him. And I think he is the binding force between all of us, like my daughter, husband, and myself. Everyone loves him. That's what I'm amazed. Like whatever he does is loved by everyone. He has some charisma. I don't know what it is, but he's loved by everyone.
Yeah.
So yeah.
What do you imagine for his future?
For his future, definitely something like a residential or a group home. I think that I would like him to go somewhere there, and I'm preparing him. We do have
Mhm.
our plans of shifting him to trying him first for the group home. If doesn't work, then the second plan, B plan, would be the residential thing. Although Shreya keeps telling me like, oh, I would be taking my baby, you don't have to make him stay in a group home or residential. But I know what it takes to be, taking care of him and everything. And I do say that, okay, if you want your brother to go with you and stay for some time, that's what I'm preparing him for. Like he can, help you in laundry, in washing utensils, help you there. But I would definitely want him to, live on his own.
Mm.
And when I look at my own life, my life has revolved a lot around, for all mothers, I would say, if you have, child with autism spectrum, your entire life revolves around the child, like what you would be doing in the morning or in the afternoon, whether you can go for a outing or you can't go for a outing. I mean, like everything is dependent on the child. So I don't want Shreya to be leading that kind of life. I want her to give wings, and I want to lead her a happy and a this thing and happy life. And whenever she wants, I know they are there for each other, and that's the most important thing. I don't want like that to come as a burden to a sibling. I definitely don't want, like, as a, sometimes you feel like, oh, sibling is there, that person will look after. I always believe these are two lives and they should be living their lives to the fullest. They can get into something like codependent life, interdependent life, but not as nothing like as Suvrat has to be dependent on Shreya. I
Mhm.
don't want him to be leading that life. So the next year, I mean, like it got delayed by because of the pandemic, but next year, I think by January, we're going to start with the group home and
Okay.
try that for about a year or something like that. If it doesn't work, then think about something more. So that's what
Mhm.
is the plan for future for Suprath.
What is the difference between group home and residential?
For the group home, I would say like, two, three um, students, or I mean, like the people on spectrum living together, or maybe let's not on the spectrum. One could be Down syndrome and one could be with the autism spectrum, and they live like a family, and in the community they live. And whereas, like the residential setup that I say is more of a hostel kind of a thing, where there is, there are not too many in India as yet. There's something like two, three in south or southern part of India, where when I had sent my son there, I feel the language is a barrier, because although he can't speak, but he can understand everything. But if the other people are not speaking his language, it's going to be difficult for him.
Mhm.
And uh, and in here, I mean, like, in northern part of India, we don't have, like, I would like to send my son to, or if this group home doesn't happen, because this is more of inclusive thing that I feel, and the residential part is more of the seclusion. you know
Yeah.
you need to
Got
have
it.
a bigger chunk of land, maybe on the outer skirts of the city. You put them together, and they are secluded from the from the community, or they have their own life. So
Mhm.
that's the second part. Definitely, whatever is, like, happens, and it's okay. I'm not saying, and not just focusing on one plan that this has to work out. Whatever works out for him, or, and because, as I say, for others also, because there has to be a support system for him when I'm no more. So the question is, what after us? It's not about, and I want to do it right away, because I still have energy and I can see him, what's happening, what are the flaws, what is best for him. So we can start working on it now, and that's what my dream is. Like, by 25 or by 26, I should be very well aware of this is where he's going to be living. I mean, like, we'll have to create, we don't have any option. We will have to create a group home. We will have to create a residential. As of now, we don't have
Oh, you'll
any.
have to create the group.
Yeah, we'll have to create one. We'll have to create one. There's nothing here right now. We don't have
Okay,
even one. We're struggling with the government also, but we don't have anything as of now, in Chandigarh, near Chandigarh.
I see.
I think he is the guiding light for us, Subrat. So, when there is a need, I think that so many other people would also be needing. So, together, like, it's just not helping my own son, and it would be, together creating something more beautiful.
Mhm.
Maybe people are not coming forward, and we've made a association also, parent association also, we're talking about it, but nobody comes in front, I think. And right now, because of the pandemic, we thought, like, okay, we're going to put it on hold, but now in January or February, we are going to, take it through, and do not think about it, because we don't know when this pandemic is going to get over. So we're going to be, look
Mhm.
out for a small place, start with 2 days or 3 days, taking our children over there, making them stay night over there, and then gradually,
Yeah.
developing
And
a
maybe
system.
maybe there will be more parents that start coming out
Yeah, I'm sure they
once
will
they
be,
hear.
because somebody, I think what happens is, everyone waits that the other person has to take the initiative.
Mhm.
So that I if one takes the initiative, there's so many people who will join the league. But
Mm.
to take that, responsibility initially, that we're going to do that, I'm going to be there at night, I'm going to be there, every time the people would say, like, oh, I can't leave, I have this, I have that, I won't be able to live. But right now, I say, like, I still have some energy. I don't know what will happen to me after a few years, but right now I'm 50, and I will be able to take care of it for next 5 years, and then I
Mhm.
don't know. So let me,
Yeah.
utilize this time. And as of, like, I have always felt like by 25 my son needs to know. So for my daughter, as I always felt, by 25 or 26, I should be knowing what she will be do, where she will live, and wherever, whatever. So this is true with my son also. Maybe it's a
Mhm.
different life, maybe it's just a different life, but the age criteria does not is will not be different for my daughter and for my son.
Mhm. Right. But yeah, like you did with SOREM, you're creating something that is in need, and
Yeah.
it'll be for other people in the community too, not just Suvrit.
Yeah, and I think then we can have, like, few group homes. Then we could think about the community living also, if it happens, or if that doesn't happen, then probably maybe one or two group homes. We don't know. So what
Mhm.
I assume is, like, when I'm going to start, I'm sure, like, two three parents are going to come, and I say, like, okay, you stay here, and then we have, like, a community. My idea is like if you have like more of group homes, then parents are all passionate. So for me, if I look after Suvrat, I would be having similar compassion to the other child also.
Mhm.
So if he's not, so if I go or if I take break or if I'm not well, so some parent can take care of the other children also. So of course the professional support will be there, but then
Mhm.
somebody needs to go and check for their
Yeah.
safety, for everything, for other needs. So
It's going back to how communities were living before, even how communities in smaller villages are living,
yeah,
where they take care of everyone, every
yeah,
member of
yeah,
that tribe.
yeah. So that it doesn't become burden on anyone, everyone has to come. And maybe let's say like one family could say like, okay, I'm going to have one meal with this family today, and you, that's how you know what food are they eating, and that has a surprise check. So I have some plans in my mind, I don't know, but let's see how it goes on. Like, you don't say
Yeah.
that you're going to be here on night, you don't have to be at night, and then you go and stay with them and see what is going right and what's not going right. So it's not like, checking someone, but also to put everything in order so that um, you were taking care of everything.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, good luck to you guys with that.
Thank you, we really need that. We really need that.
So maybe this is a good transition to talk about your journey with SOREM.
Yeah. So similarly, like, when, as I said, like when I came back from Delhi after my training, there was nothing of the support system I could bank upon. So he was only 2 at that time. So thought of putting him into a regular playway. It was a best playway of Chandigarh. And um, with the thought of like, okay, with the social skills, he will be, maybe with his peers he will learn something, and for the other needs I will be taking care. So we had put him in that school. After a few days the counselor calls me and says that, I'm sorry, Mrs. Jan, he can't be here. I said, like, what happened? He says, did he do something, did he disturb, did he, did something which was not okay in the classroom? He says, no, he didn't do anything of that sort. He just plays with his toys and is okay. But parents have objections that he has autism and will not be able to keep him. That was kind of the first rejection I had in my life.
How did that feel?
Oh, I it was like, a shock. I was shattered. And not only that much, she also suggested that, Mrs. Jain, if you have money, you should shift to the US because that's where the services are. You're in the wrong country, ma'am. And I did not know what to say. I just heard, I did not utter a word. I took my child and I came back home. I never went back to that school. I never ever went back to that school and say that. I said, if you're not accepting my child, I will not even fight for it. Because people told me that you should fight, you should do all those things. I'm not engaged fighting, but it was something I couldn't accept. Like, if you were not accepting, what would be if I fight and then you say like, okay, your child can be here. So we thought of, we found out some very small school which were very very accommodating, and I spoke to the principal and she said like, okay, how can we help him? And that was the thing that I was wanting. So we went and we introduced the buddy system over there, which was super successful. So every day, like, whosoever would sit with Suvrat would help him with his tiffin, with help him with his notebooks, would be the monitor of the class. So that was the small things that we did in the classrooms, and pretty successful. But again, that was a very small school, a kindergarten. He had to leave after 3 years. Then he went to a school, a resource room, where a big school where they had this resource room, because by that time there were some resource rooms. um, and people were little aware of autism also. So Surya did okay there for 2.5 years, I think. And by that time, he was hitting his puberty, about 10 or 11. So he started having challenging behaviors, and then they again called, principal again called and said like, sorry, Mrs. Jain, we can't keep him. And I was like, it's better, we know you've been associated with Delhi schools and all. It's better to take him to Delhi. And again, this suggestion when it came, like somebody said, telling me to go to the US, somebody telling me to go to, Delhi. And that's where I thought about like, I am going from one place to another. And honestly speaking, Rachel, I was thinking all my bags were almost packed, and I thought that I will be moving to Delhi, to the center from where I took the training. That the plan was like, okay, I'm going to shift, and then I'm going to take along my daughter because she was also a teenager, and I could not leave her behind. I said, okay, for good, we shift to Delhi because that's where I'll find some support for my son and for my own self also. And this was this new school which came up, Sorem. I said, like, let me go and see what this place is like. So this place came up in 2008. This was 2009. I went and saw, and then I spoke to the founder, who I mean, like, she's a very great person. I would like my son to be here, and how about if I volunteer myself here? And they said like, okay, you're most welcome. And that's where that thing came up within me, like how long I'll be running from one place to the another. Why not create something over here?
Mm.
And that was the time to take the responsibility, not kind of only looking for some support systems, but taking responsibility for your own child and for others also. So that was the time I think, let's create something here if we do not have something in Chandigarh. And I thought I'll give it a shot, and I'll be here for a while to see if everything works. And we have a saying, I'm sure you would be having something like a very similar saying, like if you would do something with great passion, then as the saying says, no, if you're doing it with all your heart, the the universe supports you, and you will also receive the support from 10,000 miles away. And that's what happened. So in 2009 I joined, and we collaborated with Global Autism Project in 2010. And then of course it was no looking back. And then of course, as I always say that the standalone practitioners do not have those standardized services. So for us at Sorum, with the Global Autism, we had the best practices and we knew how to work. So the benchmark was not something, and the standardized was not something only with the local people. It was the global benchmark that we were trying to meet. And I think that's what we all wanted to do at Sorum. So my journey with Sorum has been now, I think, more than 10 years. And
And what role do you play there now?
I'm a second in command over there. So the founder, who's 89 years old, is the principal, and I'm vice principal over there.
Hmm.
So
Wonderful.
now I take more of I've taken up a more of a administrative role rather than as a educator or educator role.
Hmm. So you're also a leader there amongst the staff as the vice principal. How would you describe your leadership style?
So it was not easy for me to, lead someone, because it is like when you work as a mom, it's more of passion that we want to do something with your child, and when you deal with the staff and everyone, so that's where you feel that, oh, they're not exhibiting that same kind of passion, they're not understanding, they're not doing what's told to them. So that's where I think I had to learn. And Global Autism, as I always say, did not only help us to learn they did not only help us in the assessment tools or checklist or collecting data or the behavior modification, but it was also for me taking up the administrative role of how do I establish myself as reinforcement for my staff to work. So I think right now I would say that it's a very happy place, and I'm very glad that I was able to learn. It didn't come to me very naturally, because when you are we're not You don't start your career as a professional, and in midst of like, after it was only after 40 I decided to be a professional, right? So when that's the time where you start thinking about your children who would be taking up the profession, where all your systems and get ingrained. And that's the time I started studying again, did my post graduation in um, autism spectrum disorder to be registered with Rehabilitation Council of India, and then my bachelor's in education in intellectual disability. So it came to me eventually, and I had to learn a lot of other skills to be a leader. And I'm glad that where I am today, not just because of only my passion, but also as a professional, I am leading SOREM. So that's,
Hmm.
I would give credit to Global Autism Project. The
Hmm.
summits that I attended, the training that every time I got was commendable, I would say.
Yeah, you were able to attend Global Summit last year. What was
Yeah,
that like for you?
I actually attend. This was my second. So the first one was like a very small one with Pooja and from Nigeria, Julia. With we all three were there in the first summit, and it is like I think Global Autism had this a very beautiful way to make everyone understand not only the skills that has to be taught to the students, but to everyone, how to work in unity and how to work, um, taking this passion forward as a leader. I We all learned. And so from Sorum this time I took my team. So we were about four people from Sorum this time. So it was not only me I attended, there were four people attended this summit.
Yeah. And you're right, you're all leaders in your community,
Yeah,
helping to move this mission forward so that children all over the world can receive services no matter where they are.
yeah, definitely. Every child is important. Every child is important without exception.
Yeah. Can you share a success story related to one of your students at Sorum?
There are many, I think. Uh, okay, I would like to share one story of a student who came to us, had so much of challenging behavior, who would hit himself, bleed all over, scratch the teacher, make her bleed. And these parents came to us, like they said, we want admission in the school. And like when we saw the child, we did not know what to do. So we said, okay, we're going to start with the early intervention. He was like 5 or 6 at that time, and I said, you need to be like patient. We really don't know when we can take him, because as the school principal, if the child is indulging into so much of the difficult behaviors, we won't be able, because will the other children are there in classrooms, so we won't be able to take him in the group settings. So the it started, and I would say like it was so bad that every time he went from the session back, we had to clean, mop the room because it had like blood stains. And but eventually, with all those practices, we had all those preventive measures. Also, the teacher to wear those gloves and tie her hair, do everything. And we made sure that two people are always there while he's working, because sometimes you need a rescuer also. And giving him attention, not giving him attention at times, and redirecting him if somebody is hurt, so that person can take a break and not give reaction and still be there. So that is the how we took on. And I think mother was very supportive, and father would keep coming to us and say like, how many more days and how many more months will you just continue with this early intervention? I said, I'm not too sure. If you would like to take your child, you can take, but we're trying our best. And I think it took about 1 year 4 months for us, the child, to be like perfectly sitting in his chair and working. no
Mm.
injurious behaviors. And then we got him into a smaller group with 4 5 students for coming for 2 2.5 hours, and then finally getting him to uh, the school classroom, where he is, I mean, like, he's such a delight to see. Rachel, like, he copies from the blackboard, he writes, he smiles, he does everything. He still has occasionally of biting his hand, but no more, going and banging on walls, on floor, or doing everything. He had so much of obsessions, like taking away small toys to home and not releasing, getting hold of certain things. It was very difficult. It was just not the challenging behaviors of self, injurious or harming others. It was also stealing. It was also getting obsessed with one piece of puzzle and not letting it go.
Mhm.
So we've come a long way, come a long, long way with him. And I mean, when I look at him, I always see that uh, we all feel so proud of it, that together we were able to, make, get, reach here. So
Mhm.
this is
Yeah.
one of the success stories that we've had in Sodom.
Yeah. That is really inspiring. Now that the challenging behaviors have reduced and there's
Yeah,
less stress in his life, less stress in his
yeah,
parents' life, he's able
yeah,
to learn new
yeah.
skills that can help him be more independent as he gets
Yeah.
older.
And I always say that, if the child is not smiling, we need to make sure that child needs to smile. So so much is going inside him. This the child doesn't smile. So whenever we're doing assessment, this is something we always take care of it. Whether child smiles, or once or
Mm.
twice, or is not smiling even once.
Mm.
So that's really important for all of us.
Mhm. You wanna make sure they're having
Yeah, because the child's smile is a reinforcement for us.
fun. Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, how has the COVID-19 pandemic affected your center?
Yeah, it's closed. It's everything is closed. I mean, it's been now almost 9 months, and as I shared earlier, we have 172 students. We really don't know where children are right now, but as of now, we still are in touch of 150 students, and we having online classes, assembly. Staff is working from school. I mean, like, children are not there. It's not still not Children are not allowed by the government, so they're still at home. But we do get students if they are having a lot many challenging behaviors. So we say, like, oh, bring this child for half an hour or 1 hour. We're all there. We'll sit, because, as this, when you are into your own houses, loneliness, depression, anxiety is prevalent with everyone, and so is with our children. So we understand that maybe they can't go out anywhere, but if you can come and meet us and we can share something with them, a social story, and we can make them feel better. So it's okay, because we're also taking a lot of precautions. Otherwise, the support system of our finances, like, the training charges that we take from students, is reduced to somewhat about 30%. And to sustain on that is really very difficult, because we've not asked any of our staff to go. We thought about it, and but our staff is very dedicated and passionate. One or two have left on their own because they found something better, and when they said that they found something better and they would like to leave, we let them go. We said, like, yeah, that's nice for you, because we'll not be able to pay you right now the full salary.
Mhm.
So so we still have the staff, we're still managing, we're still trying. And
Are you getting support from the government during the pandemic?
no, no, not at all, not even a single penny, nothing.
Not even the individual families?
Yeah, something with individual families a little bit,
Okay.
but that's also very limited. We focusing a lot on the vocational products, selling them, raising some funds with the help of other vocational products that our children make.
Hmm.
We trying on that, but overall, it's really sad. And I mean, I don't have the heart to say to anyone to, okay, we don't have money now, please leave. So I'm trying on my own level, whatever I can support Sorum financially. My husband is also very kind with that, so we're trying and doing that to best of our abilities. We're trying, and hopefully this too shall pass and will be, there, because I don't want them to go, because it's such a wonderful team that we have created. And uh, and together, I think, I always say this as my this is my family. So the Sorum family, we will sail on, like, little less, it's okay,
Hmm.
but we're together. That's most important. And my entire staff right now, Diwali is coming. That's the biggest festival of India, and we're looking forward for this Diwali to make all the vocational products. Everyone is working towards it. Students have taken work home. The every staff is, thinking of new creative ideas. What can we do? We're utilizing the time that, oh, when the children come back, we can teach them this also. We can teach them this also, and we're introducing new vocational products. So we've launching products in this time, and we're utilizing it. And I'm so proud of my own team, that everyone is not even complaining of what we are doing. So that's the best blessing, I think. And how can I say, and to anyone at this point, like, they're supporting. I don't have anything to, complain about. So
Hmm.
the best thing I can do is like raise some more funds. And now we have one more. I mean, Archana Chaudhary is there. She's also supporting with the fundraising. So together we're trying to our level best, whatever we can do.
Yeah. And I just want to remind our listeners that we're still taking donations for our partner relief fund.
Yeah, thank you so.
Yeah, that money will go directly to our partners like SOREM and other
Yeah,
centers around the world who really need it.
yeah.
All right,
Thank you
Sangeeta.
so
So,
much.
of course. So let's talk about SkillCorps. You've had many SkillCorps volunteer teams visit
Yeah,
SOREM over the years because you're one of the original partners that we've had.
yeah.
Can you share a special memory you have with one of the trips?
Oh, there's so many. It will be difficult for me to choose one, but I don't know. But every time they are here, I think we learn. And um, I think I found some very good friends. Although they've come and they've been here only for 14 days and they go, but how passionate they are. And even if you talk to them now also, they are there. You can reach out to them.
Mhm,
So it's not something that they will come for 14 days and then it is gone. So the best part is the sustainability every time the trip leader comes. So, and it is decided that what we're going to work on this time, and the last time what we did, and in between also there's a lot of, we keep talking, like, okay, this is what was taught to us and how are we dealing with it? Are there any difficulties to implement? And every part of it, every bit of it. And I think everyone whosoever comes gets so comfortable with eating Indian food, and they enjoy so much. It doesn't feel like that they're here for the first time. It feels like a family. I mean, like, as I said earlier, that I always call Sorum as my family, and it feels like the family is getting extended every time anyone comes. Maybe, if, let's say, like, 8 people come, out of which 4 or 5 are always there with you. I mean, you can reach out to them, talk to them. And as I shared, like we've had interns also from Canada, the young girls who were there, and it feels so funny, like the young girls who were here having so much of fun, and
Yeah,
and
that
I
is student core.
and as when you say, like, the biggest memory, I think I have the biggest memory of the skill corp is my tattoo.
Oh,
This is so
I don't think I've
funny.
seen that. Can I see
That's
it?
so.
Can you show it to the camera?
Can you see it now?
It says hope with a lotus flower on top.
Yeah, yeah. So this is like, young girls who came and got themselves tattooed, and I was like, no, no, don't get this done. I'm going to complain it to this, and I'm going to do that. And says, no, no, Sangeeta, you can't do this. I said, no, I'm going to say this to, and you can't go. I mean, like, you're are my responsibility as well, and you should be doing all this. And then one day they were like, we were having all lunch together at my home, and I don't know how I said, like, if in case I would like to have a tattoo, I would have a hope. And then they said,
Mhm.
like, let's go. And I said, no,
Oh,
no, no, I'll do get it. No, 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 no. And they just took me and got my tattoo got it done. And then, every time I said, and when my daughter looked at me, so like, mom, what is this? And I said, like, I don't know, but I got it done. And
uh,
so I think,
funny. That's
yeah,
actually a policy we have now. We're not allowed to get tattoos on SkillCorps trips, and it might be
yes,
because of this incident.
I think so. I think so. I'm sure about it. I'm sure about it. This was from India. This was from India, and I kept on telling them, you should be doing it, you should be doing it. And I had to disclose to the, Global Autism also, like, I'm like little scared when they go, and sometimes we don't know where where they go and get it done. So
Yeah.
yeah, so it was like little scary for me. So I had to inform, like, and then they formed it a group, like, no tattoos.
Yeah. So now you have a permanent memory.
Yeah,
That's beautiful.
it's a very beautiful, because I think it says hope, and whenever what you need to catch is catch holders of hope, and if you have hope, you will keep persevering, and when if you keep persevering, you will definitely find your destination, no matter what. It's just like, do not ever give up. Never say that i'm I'm not going to win. So even if at the darkest moments, I think, today again I'm not going to be defeated is my, my motto.
Mhm.
If I can't say that, today I'll win, today again I'll not be defeated is my favorite motto, which I follow from my Buddhism.
Mm.
So
Mhm.
that's what is, yeah. So
Yeah.
hope is the best thing, I feel, to
Mhm.
continue, because this is not a easy journey as a parent or as a professional working in this particular field. So
Right. It's what we can hold on to.
yeah,
Mhm.
that's what I totally believe in.
Mhm. So what part of Indian culture do you like to share with the teams when they visit?
So we are in Punjab, as I said, like northern part of India. So basically more of Punjabi culture, of going to temples and gurdwaras, Sikh temples, and food. Food is definitely something the Indians, are
Mhm.
good at, I would say,
I
because
love Indian
every, yeah,
food.
I'm sure. And I think, we have a culture very different from the US. What I've seen is like every Indian family cooks in the morning, has this tiffin boxes, would take the packed lunch and breakfast along with them. We're not used to eating out, as it's not in our culture. So we cook a lot. It's
Mm.
like occasionally, I mean, like Saturday or Sunday you would go and eat out, but otherwise, like, it's all home food.
Mhm.
So whenever the skill corp team comes, like, home food is something that we all offer, that everyone at SOREM also, we would, all carries our tiffin boxes for the skill corp teams, that, oh,
Mhm.
today we got this for you, today we got, everyone would go just like, okay. And then it's like sharing of your tiffin boxes, we call, I don't know what you call. Tiffin boxes. What is it
Like a
like?
lunchbox?
Yeah, like a lunchbox. Yeah.
Can they handle the spices?
Oh, yeah, they love it. We're so surprised. I mean, like we would
Mhm.
say, sometimes I would say that, it's a little spicy for me, but they would. But yeah, there are few people who would say that we are not okay with spices. But at food at my home is usually not with too much of spices because Suvrat can't handle it. So,
Okay.
and we're now used to it. But some teachers have little spicy food, and I've seen so many skill cop teams, they come and they say like, oh, we thought that we won't love these spices, but they enjoy.
Mm,
And in SOREM, one of the vocations that we have is the spices, grinding spices, selling
mm,
them. So there's it's such a funny thing that every time they'll say like, oh, what spices do I need now? And every time they will buy such big bag full of spices when they go from India, is like, oh, I need chai masala, the tea masala, I need this. Everyone is excited about spices. I think this is something, this is new to us, that they won't be able to eat, but they
mm,
really love everything, every bit of Indian food they love.
mhm.
Yeah.
All right, Sangeeta, we're going to have to wrap up here, but I'd like to close with one last question.
Hmm.
What advice would you offer other autism parents whose children are now adolescents and will soon be adults?
So for me, to always calibrate your goals, what are you looking for, be always very realistic what your child can do, and where do you see him when you are no more. And think about it, that as I always say, choose two goals if you can't choose too many goals. One goal which will make your child's life easier, and one goal which will make your own life as a parent or whomsoever the child is living with, will make his or her life easier. So the two goals, whatever makes everyone, let's say, like, easier life, that's what
Mhm,
we have to have in our curriculum most when we are going on to the adolescent and adults. And also not to always think in the terms of meltdowns, in the terms of, because what I have experienced as, that when the child is into the adolescence, you often find that child engages into the challenging behaviors. So not always every time getting into the tiff with the child of this, okay, I am stronger than you. I'm sure if you have a neurotypical child, you would know that how much you know tiffs you have with your child. Like, this child can say things and say like, I don't want, you are this, you are that. They have their verbal fights. With the children on spectrum, probably that's the only way they can fight. And we should meet midway, not having into a kind of a fight thing, and not even getting depressed. It's the normal phenomena. As you've enjoyed your children, enjoy the adolescence also. That's what I would say, that um, not uh, thinking like, okay, this child has autism, and so has this so many challenging behavior. It's just like different way of expression of their individuality, I think. It's there. So
it's part of that acceptance.
it's part of that acceptance, and every day for a parent is acceptance. Every day. We can't say that, oh, I have accepted the diagnosis. The diagnosis in itself is nothing. You have to accept every day and work on it, of course. But acceptance is the first step to it, to build on it something. If you're not accepting anything, you can't work on it.
Mhm.
So it's not a we're not talking about the passive acceptance purely.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great advice. Thank you, Sangeeta. It's
Thank you
been
so
an
much.
absolute pleasure. And, um, I wish you guys luck at SOREM during this difficult time. And I hope that your staff can continue to be motivated under your guidance.
Thank you so much. I'm sure, I mean, like, I wouldn't say my under my guidance. I think together we'll be, if I need them, they'll be with me. And if they need me, I'll be there with them. So I would rather have this kind of relationship rather than under me.
Hmm. Does SOREM have a social media account where people can follow you?
We have a Facebook account. We also have an Instagram. So for the Facebook, it's SOREM. And when this society started, it the full form was Society for Mentally Challenged, because at that time it was called as mentally challenged and there was no autism. So we still keeping the same name, but we call this as SOREM rather than calling it as mentally challenged, because it doesn't feel good about it. So we call this as SOREM. And so we have the Instagram page also with the SOREM 36. So
Okay.
yeah, so even if you put it on SOREM Chandigarh, I'm sure you'll be able to open the link. Although we're very new on the social media, we learned it and we're trying and following it.
Hmm. Yeah, I'll post links to it in our show notes.
Yeah,
All
thank you
right,
so much.
Sangeeta. Well, tell Shreya and Suvrat that I say hello.
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much, Rachel. It was pleasure talking to you today.
Thanks for tuning in to Autism Knows No Borders. Throughout this podcast, we've been hearing stories from people like Sangeeta, incredible individuals who, when told that there is nowhere for autistic children to learn, decide to take matters into their own hands and create their own opportunities. By breaking stigmas and spreading awareness, these changemakers are undoubtedly transforming their communities and the world into a more inclusive place. I love the Indian proverb that Sangeeta shared. If you do something with great passion, the universe will support you, and you will receive the support from 10,000 miles away. This saying perfectly describes our global autism community. Although we can't see each other in person these days, we continue to love and support each other from various corners of the world. Our partners, like Sangeeta, could use your help in these challenging times. Just a reminder that we're still taking donations for our COVID-19 Partner Relief Fund. Since the start of the crisis, our partners all over the world have been adapting their services to support some of the most vulnerable children and their families. The good news is that you can help ensure schools like SOREM continue running services by making a donation today. 100% of your donations to the Partner Relief Fund go directly to our partners who need it most. You will be supporting internet access for remote teaching, educational materials, and protective equipment. You can make a difference today by supporting families and their children in our partners' communities. Donations can be made at globalautismproject.org. You've been watching Autism Knows No Borders. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Also, we'd love to hear from you, so let us know what you think in the comments section. Click here to watch another interview from our podcast. You can also find us on your favorite podcast app. Tune in each week for engaging conversations of how people across the globe are inspiring change and building community. Thanks for watching. Take care.